Beneath the velvet canopy of an eternal night sky, where stars danced like fireflies and moonlight kissed the silver leaves, lay the mythical realm of Luminara. Hidden deep within the ancient forests of Eldrith, this land was home to the elusive Night Elves, a race of ethereal beings who thrived under the moon's gentle glow. For centuries, the realm remained untouched by outsiders, guarded by powerful wards and the vigilant eyes of its inhabitants. But that was about to change. It began when a rift opened in the veil, the magical barrier that separated Luminara from the outside world. The Night Elves, led by High Sentinel Silra, gathered at the Starshade glade to investigate. Silra, tall and graceful with hair like spun starlight, peered into the swirling vortex of the rift, her violet eyes narrowing with concern. "This breach is no accident," she said, her voice echoing softly among the gathered elves. "Someone or something has tampered with the veil. We must find out who." Among the crowd stood Kael, a young scout whose curiosity often led him into trouble. Unlike the others, who viewed the rift with suspicion, Kael felt a strange pull toward it. He couldn't explain why, but something about the breach called to him. "High Sentinel," Kael ventured, stepping forward. "Let me investigate. I've scouted the borders before. I know the terrain better than anyone." Silra hesitated. She saw potential in Kael, but his impulsive nature worried her. After a moment's thought, she nodded. "Very well. But you won't go alone. Take Lyria with you." Lyria, a seasoned ranger with an unwavering sense of duty, stepped forward. She and Kael often clashed, but her presence would ensure he didn't act recklessly. The duo set off at dawn, though in Luminara, dawn was marked not by the sun but by the pale blue hues that heralded the moon's highest ascent. Their journey took them through shadowy glades and crystalline streams, where bioluminescent plants lit their path and nocturnal creatures watched from the shadows. As they approached the rift, an unnatural chill filled the air. The magical wards that once protected the area had been shattered, their remnants crackling faintly. Kael knelt to inspect the ground, finding strange claw marks etched into the earth. "These aren't from any creature I've seen before," he murmured. Lyria's hand went to the hilt of her glaive. "Stay alert. Whatever caused this might still be nearby." The rift pulsed with energy, its swirling light casting eerie shadows on the surrounding trees. Kael stepped closer, his curiosity overriding his caution. As he reached out to touch the edge of the rift, a voice echoed from within. "Help me." Kael recoiled, his heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" he asked Lyria. She nodded, her expression grim. "Someone's trapped on the other side." Before she could stop him, Kael plunged his hand into the rift. The energy enveloped him, pulling him through. Lyria shouted his name and dove after him, and together they were swallowed by the light. They emerged in a land unlike any they had known. The sky above was a swirling maelstrom of colors, and the ground beneath their feet felt unstable, shifting with each step. Towering spires of obsidian jutted out of the ground, and strange, shadowy figures moved in the distance. "Where are we?" Kael whispered. "Not in Luminara," Lyria replied, scanning their surroundings. "This place, it's wrong. We need to find the source of the voice and get out of here." The voice called to them again, guiding them toward a ruined temple at the edge of a chasm. Inside, they found a figure chained to an ancient altar. It was a night elf, but her appearance was twisted. Her once luminous skin was marred with dark veins, and her eyes glowed an unnatural red. "Who are you?" Kael asked, approaching cautiously. "My name is Ariella," the elf rasped. "I was a guardian of the veil. I tried to stop the corruption, but it was too strong. Now it spreads, feeding on my power." Lyria's grip on her glaive tightened. "You're the reason the rift opened." "Not by choice," Ariella pleaded. "Destroy the anchor binding me, and the rift will close. But beware, the corruption will fight back." As Kael and Lyria prepared to destroy the anchor, the shadows in the temple came alive. Tendrils of dark energy lashed out, forming into grotesque creatures with glowing red eyes. The two elves fought fiercely, their blades cutting through the writhing darkness, but the creatures kept coming. "Kael, hurry!" Lyria shouted, holding off a massive shadow beast. Kael reached the anchor, a pulsating crystal embedded in the altar. He raised his sword and struck it with all his strength. The crystal shattered, releasing a shockwave of light that dispelled the shadows. Ariella collapsed, her chains dissolving, and the rift in the distance began to shrink. "You did it," Lyria said, breathing heavily. But their relief was short-lived. The corruption, sensing its defeat, coalesced into a single, towering form. It roared, shaking the temple to its foundations. "Go," Ariella urged, struggling to stand. "I will hold it off. You must escape before the rift closes." "We're not leaving you," Kael said firmly. "You must," Ariella insisted. "If the corruption escapes, it will consume all of Luminara. This is my burden to bear." Kael hesitated, but Lyria grabbed his arm. "She's right. We can't let her sacrifice be in vain." With heavy hearts, they fled the temple, racing back to the rift as the ground crumbled beneath their feet. Just as they reached the rift, a final surge of light erupted from the temple, consuming the corruption and Ariella with it. The rift sealed behind them, and silence fell over the forest. Back in Luminara, Kael and Lyria reported what had happened to High Sentinel Silra. Though saddened by Ariella's fate, Silra commended their bravery and vowed to strengthen the veil to prevent such breaches in the future. "Ariella's sacrifice will not be forgotten," Silra said. "Her story will be a reminder of the cost of vigilance and the strength of unity." As Kael stood beneath the starry sky that night, he felt a new resolve. Luminara had faced a great threat and survived, but he knew the fight to protect their home was far from over. Together, they would stand as guardians of the eternal night, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.